Welcome everyone to Live from NCCE December 2023 edition. Excited to have all of you with us today, but even more excited to have our wonderful friend Heather Colday with us today. Heather, so happy to have you. Heather is from Laramie County School District in the great state of Wyoming. She teaches 6th and 7th grade math, science, social studies, STEAM. You kind of cover it all, but more importantly, she is an Apple certified teacher. She's an MIE expert. She's Microsoft certified. She's ISTE certified, right?
I
And
am.
most importantly, she is a distinguished professional learning specialist with NCCE. And I'm super excited because this is the hot topic, isn't it, Heather? How do we use AI in the classroom? We cannot wait to get your tips and tricks. So, Heather, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, it is great to be here. I'm super excited to be able to just share some of my journey. And I'm really coming today, as an educator, I'm in the classroom each day, sort of balancing, my preps and my family and my continuing education and all of those things. And so I know just the time that anything that saves us time as teachers or can be that tool that can make something a little bit easier or help me get some new really cool ideas with my students, I'm super excited about. So I'm coming today just sort of sharing a little bit of my journey in that way. And I am a 6th and 7th grade math and science teacher and computer science teacher. And then I also spend a lot of time coaching and mentoring other teachers. So this is just sort of some of the things that I've come away with in this last year and a half of this crazy ride that's been AI. So I just want to sort of start out, though, what we're talking about today with a little bit, just to sort of frame our thinking on AI, especially for some teachers that might be new to that. And then we'll sort of go into sharing some tools and tips or strategies that may be helpful to those who've already started on their journey. So AI, okay, it has come a long way, right? Since its earliest days in the 1950s. And it is truly a full-time job, I think, plus overtime to try to keep up with all of the change and all that's happening in AI. And I think I spoke at a conference at the beginning of summer and then again in September and talking now, like, everything's changed, right? Every few months, it's like you can talk on that same topic, but it's a complete redo because everything is just changing so rapidly, and which is exciting, but can also be a little intimidating too. So I hope today that maybe some of this might help ease some of the fears about using AI in the classroom, and but also just to address the use of AI by our students, and then the need for us to train them to use AI responsibly, ethically, and effectively or efficiently. So that's sort of my hope for us today. One thing for those of you who might be new to this whole question, my phone, starting out about AI, a really great resource is this AI 101 for teachers. It's put out by code.org, and it was a collaborative project between code.org, ISTE, ETS, Khan Academy. And it's really designed for teachers. It's very accessible and just kind of some conversations about AI and what's happening. So I would highly recommend that if it's a new topic for you. And there's also some great material on code.org for you to use with your students. And that's all free, and some great products that I'd also recommend. Okay, so policies. This is something I think is important to set the stage for the topic. And I just really have to emphasize, as an educator, the importance of discussing what the policies are with regard to AI in your district. Really at every level, the school, the district, classroom to classroom, that needs to be clearly defined for you and for your students. From classroom to classroom, policies are different, and it really can be difficult for students to navigate. So we need to really be very clear on our own positions as a teacher, what is acceptable and what isn't. And we're doing students really a great disservice when they're unclear about those and they're not 100% clear on what's going to be considered cheating or plagiarism. And especially when that changes from classroom to classroom. So I know in my own district, those policies aren't completely solidified yet. If there are any administrators out there, it's so important that those conversations are happening to pursue sort of practical and forward thinking policy on this issue for the benefit of everyone, for teachers and students. The technology is truly still in its birth pangs. It's not going anywhere. So we need to really be wise about that. In 2022, Time Magazine interviewed Kai Fu Lee, and who's just a change maker in AI. And he said artificial intelligence could be the most transformative technology in the history of mankind. And we may not even see much of the sweeping change coming. And that's because we overestimate what technology can do in 5 years, but we far underestimate what it will do in 20. And so as we look ahead for the future of our students that we have now, we need to be looking that 20 years out and thinking about how this is going to change their lives and how it needs to impact the classroom. So I just think that is so important for us to remember. So I know Matt Miller was on NCCE Live some months back, and this is from his book, AI in Education, which I totally and completely recommend. It's a fantastic read, very quick read as well. And it's a great place to start this conversation. I've used this myself with teachers in training, and I've also used a bit of an altered version of this with my students to prompt discussion. And I actually think the most powerful thing to come out of a discussion based on this is really that there is a lot of gray area, and that there's a really broad diversity of where people land on this question. And so, for staff and administrators and teachers to see how that could change from classroom to classroom and how that could be confusing for students. And then also for students. And I think the benefit of having the conversation with them really does and underscore for them the importance that they're really engaging with each teacher on what the policies are, so that they're avoiding that danger zone of being accused of plagiarism or cheating by using these tools. So that's something that I guess is just my little soapbox of a starting place that we really need to be sure that we're all on the same page. So transforming our teaching. As we look at the discussion, I do hope that part of the discussion being had is really prompting taking a look at rethinking what we're teaching and what we consider essential teaching and essential learning, I guess, more clearly for students, and in our modern context, what could be replaced with some higher order thinking. If we're prioritizing instruction that really can, that students can generate easily with AI, then I think we're really missing something as far as what we're asking of our students, considering like what our world is and what their world is and will be. So as we're transitioning into sort of a transformed teaching as a result of AI, I want to begin with a little bit of some strategies that I like, some that I've used, some that I've used with other teachers, but not with my age students, that would allow us to focus on the important ethical lens that we need to take with our students when looking at AI. And so these 5 topics here are the ones that over about the last year and a half that I've been doing a lot of reading, these seem to be the 5 issues that sort of float to the top or float to the surface, no matter what article or what perspective I'm reading from. And so I think just looking at some teacher moves that we can take in the classroom that then address these issues within the broader picture of AI is important. So the first, we're really aware is a big one, and that's that issue of equity, justice, fairness, comes in packaged in different language, but really comes down to the fact that these large learning models or large language models that we are our AI is coming out of is still learning, right, and is still dealing with issues of equity and representation. And so as we think about these first of all are great conversations to have with our students. And so I think, why not train our students to prompt appropriately to address these issues to help with that. So what I have here, this is a prompt that I used with Microsoft Copilot that might be a starting point for students on a discussion of school desegregation in the US in the 60s and 70s. So I'll give you kind of a moment to read through the response there. But the prompt putting in was, create a statement from the perspective of a Black high school student in the 1960s with regard to desegregation of schools for the purpose of discussion. So the ability for quickly to get sort of a profile written up of a perspective that could then be used as a lens for students to analyze a literature. Perhaps it's a text that's being read in a literature class, or perhaps it's a particular piece of legislation that we're studying in history class like this. And we can have students discussing and sort of taking on the role of a student or someone whose perspective may not be represented. And then we can even conversely have, okay, so what would the experience of a white student in a school during this time be? And perhaps having kids just kind of work through what does that look like? Do you agree with that? Do you, what would that have been like to have been a part of that experience? And so bringing in the use of AI to actually ask it, to prompt it directly to include perspectives that it can be missing with initial prompts, I think has been really interesting to sort of see how that's played out. And I think, as students start to realize that these are perspectives that are missing, and we have that in the conversation, it's really it's really cool to see how they then start to bring that into other conversations, because it's more in the forefront of their mind. We are seeing improvement in some of these models, but there's still quite a lot of distance and ground to be made. Dolly 2, that version 2, has really been working on making some efforts for diversity so that their image generation includes more, is more representative of our population, rather than being largely a white, often male, but white image generator. There was an algorithm that was applied to Dolly 2 that showed that the output was 12 times more likely to include a diversity in its representation. And in other words, like, they put in firemen, I believe, and it was 12 times more likely to not be a white male fireman. So there are some improvements that are being made with these algorithms, but Dolly 3 has actually just is out. But we're seeing those things starting to happen a little bit more, and some of these issues being addressed. But we certainly need to have our students be aware of them. And I think that there are lots of ways that we can use this idea to prompt our students to think about diverse perspectives and traditionally underrepresented groups in their output. With younger children, we can do this by generating the output ourselves as teachers, and then discussing differences in responses with students. We do have to be aware with younger students whose hands are on those keyboards because of policies that really do protect students and keep them off of these tools at younger than 13 or without parental consent. Another one, this is I think a huge one, and for me, it just is a real easy and a real easy one to tie into our existing curriculum, and that is when we talk about transparency and honesty and citation. And any child who's using citation in the classroom can be taught this and should be taught this. It should be coming along with any other citation methods that we're teaching. So whether you're using Copilot or Chat GTP or Gemini Bard or Dolly or whatever your flavor of choice is, to learn to create citation. And this is a shot of the University of Maryland's guide, and it starts with these building blocks, sort of the things that we need to be talking about and helping students understand that they're looking for when they're using AI. And then I would start with a whole group, modeling this to my students. And then it really can be used with any age group. The prompt can be teacher generated for younger students. It just needs to be seen that this is cited just like all other things are cited. And an activity that I think is a fun one is you can generate an image as a class. Right now, I'm sort of picturing a Santa's workshop with unlikely elves that your your students might help you to come up with, that you can prompt and then walk through, creating that process with them, and then going into citation and what that would look like, and how, if I was to use this, I would need to include that citation. So anytime that we're using AI as teachers, I think that we need to model that for our students so that they're seeing that that is an expectation, just like we would if we were, borrowing something from another teacher or another source, that we would represent where that was from and what assistance that we had in that. We're always looking for that next great idea, right, as teachers. So we need to give that credit and make sure that that's noted. Okay, responsibility and non-maleficence. So I'm a middle school teacher, and this is a big one for me just because of the world I live in, which is, there's a lot of those issues with social media and cyberbullying and all of those things. So, as we think about just responsibility and being responsible for what is created, for the accuracy of the material that we're using or that we're generating, and then knowing that there are consequences to the use of these kinds of tools that are pretty powerful. So you may remember the deep fake video of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky last March, and it told his soldiers to lay down their weapons and basically give up. So the video wasn't great, but of course that was 9 months ago. So the quality of what's coming out now is just night and day, even from what was then. And that video had, a significant impact with a lot of reach before it was taken down. And so the implications are somewhat sobering, but I think of the issues, that I was talking about with cyberbullying and social media, that we need to discuss those with our students. And why not have students debate the access to this type of technology in language arts or speech class? Consider the implications and potential legislation that may be needed in a government class. Having students discuss how it should be regulated. Is it covered under freedom of speech? Have kids do the math. How many shares is it going to take, according to some algorithm that you're working with, to reach 1 million views? Those kinds of things that help kids to tie in that real life meaning to these issues that are so important to them and in their lives, but that are also meeting those standards that we have. So I think that is something that we really need to be doing as teachers, and thinking about how we're tying that in to our real world context. Um, there's also great resources out there for digital citizenship lesson plans on AI. Commonsense.org just put out some new plans, grade 6 through 12, that look pretty good to me. I haven't used all of them yet, but they're very new. Um, and as a teacher who's always looking out for those free, like, new things, I have to say I love that they often have some really good quality materials that I've really appreciated over the years. And on the flip side, as we think about these things, the entertainment value here is high for this, the deep fakes and the ability to use some of this technology. And so, is there a way that we can harness that technology for good, having students think through those things, and write about it, discuss it, debate it, having them brainstorm positive potential for this technology? For example, the potential for translation into native languages with the original actors, or those are things that may be beneficial. But thinking about what good could come out of this potential technology, I think is another way we can incorporate the AI, and really thinking about this with our students. I think that privacy is one that, we're all very aware of. And this was a really interesting article that was put out by the International Association of Privacy Professionals. And it's sort of an accessible look at what issues are on the side of the developers, and can be really informative for discussions with students. There's a great free resource on code.org in their CS Discoveries curriculum, and their web development unit, that has kids sort of sleuthing out what information and what kind of profile can be built about someone based on their social media profiles. And I think that an adaptation of this, I'm sort of working on putting together as a lesson plan, is a similar process, but by using student prompts and the information that is being put into a series of prompts, and what we could extrapolate from that about that person, and getting kids to think about privacy in that way. Getting students to think about their gaming platforms, the My AI on Snapchat, all of those AI bots that are sort of lurking out there, some of which they're not even really aware of as AI, that are learning from them, and that are learning their information. And I sort of call it, we have the golden rule at my school, they talk about, and I refer to this as the lithium rule, which is the technology rule, that you never put something into a prompt that you wouldn't explicitly post online for anyone to see. So getting kids to really think about that, and especially for a generation that, to be honest, is much less concerned about their privacy than previous generations. So having sort of protecting our younger students in particular from this, as they just really don't understand the implications of information and access to their information always. So I think that's just something that is really important on a digital citizenship level, that we teach our students. So we have many choices. I sort of feel like the stewardess, or like flight attendant, I guess it is the flight attendant who says you have many choices when you fly. So we have many choices when we AI, and we could talk about just these for hours, but for the benefit of those who are new to this idea, these are not search engines. They're large language models, and they utilize huge stores of data, including the internet, some more current than others, to look for patterns in data. And ChatGPT is that first one that we sort of heard about, and that's the chat generative pre-trained transformer. And it went from 0 to 1 million views, or users in 5 days, and then from 1 million to 100 million in just a few months. So just the explosion of the use of this kind of AI is something that's almost mind-boggling. But the policies, again, for most of these is age 13 or older. If any younger than that for any of these is definitely with parent use or with parent permission. So just as a teacher, being really aware of whose hands are on the keyboard is very, very important. Dolly, I have mentioned Dolly 2 before. That's in its third generation of creating realistic images that just from natural language. And it's amazing just the growth in these images and the generation that we're seeing in these images and how realistic and how incredible they are. And not just in these, but in, in Canva that many of us are big fans of, or in even in Adobe Express and the ability to use it as a tool to create images. Pretty amazing, very accessible to us as teachers. So helping students just to understand what these are. Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft has put in a lot of effort to work with teachers in what teacher needs and concerns are as they're rolling out Copilot with their suite of products in schools. And I really think they've done an incredible job with that. I know Google and Gemini or Google Bard, is coming right along behind that. Claude and Poe, some of you may be familiar with. There's a new beta version out of that I think might be worth some time looking at. But really, whatever LLM you choose, one thing that we really need to stress with our students and think about is that it's all about the prompt. I was going to do a little, it's all about the, but I'll save you from that. But remembering that prompts are instructions, not questions. And I think that is a huge misunderstanding in the use of AI. There are many, many smarter people than I that have put out, greatest prompt ever type directions on sort of guides for creating great prompts. So I won't do that today. There's sort of myriad out there. There's a fairly simple one I think Becky Keane put out on Twitter, if you follow Becky, that I think is worth looking at. That's one that I'll often recommend to teachers. But I think a simple way of sort of thinking of it is likening it to helping students narrow a research topic for a paper. So we want to give as much explicit direction as we can to the AI to get the best output. So some ideas that I've used in the classroom, some of these are from AI in Education, Matt Miller's book, and just different places that I've been sort of gathering or things that I've come up with. But creating a better prompt, having students think about what it is that the information is that they're needing, what they're desiring, putting in a prompt, they get certain information out. Having them analyze that higher level thinking of analyzing the output and thinking, what's missing here? What do I need to include in a prompt? What would I need to say or to ask for to actually get better information? And having kids just think about questioning. Questioning is such a powerful tool that we use with our students, and we can sort of incorporate the power of AI into that. Assessment, write a prompt that would generate the key points of today's lesson. Having kids really have to think about what did we do today? What do I need to come away with? Synthesizing multiple responses into a better one. So whether that be student generated responses or whether I, as the teacher, have created 2 or 3 responses for my students to a question on content that we're working through, and having them look at them and say, well, this one's better because of this, or I would take this from this piece and this from this piece and this from this piece to synthesize that into that higher level thinking. Grading the response, like having students grade the AI, giving them the rubric that you're working from, having them note what would have been required to get a better grade, what would have been required to get an A that wasn't here, or having to defend why it was a successful response. And evaluating the response for accuracy. We know there are issues still with hallucination, with not hallucination of our students, but hallucination where our AI generates information that isn't accurate. It's looking for that pattern and finds what it believes should be there, whether it is or not. But having students go through and prove it's true, find corroborating evidence. How could you support what's in this response? Where could you go and find this information to corroborate it? And then for younger students, I love the Be the Bot activity, just even getting them thinking about introducing the idea of what AI is and and a prompt. And so we'd give them a very basic prompt that then that they would answer. And so just that kind of idea of incorporating that with kids, I think is exciting. So I think that these models, one thing I do think they're sort of like graphing calculators when those came out. Um, they do some of the grunt work for us and for our students so that we can take things to a higher level. And I think that's where we need to have that conversation about what is it that we're really worried about that we're losing when kids are using AI. Is it something that they can just Google? Is that really where we want to spend our focus and our time in the classroom as educators, or do we want kids to be able to take information and really problem solve and dig deeper and have good conversation? So that's the thing that I think is really important. And when you're as the teacher, when you are using AI to help with an initial draft for a lesson plan or content or project or whatever it is that you're using it for, the more focus you can provide in that prompt, the better. Who is your audience? What's the grade? What's the grade? Are there particular interests that you're wanting to pull in? Who's presenting the information? Is it coming from you or is it coming from a different perspective? What standards are being met? Be explicit with the standards there. What tone do you desire? What format? Do I want slides? Do I want an outline? Do I want paragraphs or guiding questions? What is it that I'm looking at? The more information I can put into those instructions in my prompt, then the better output I'm going to get, that I then take my own professional expertise and knowledge and objectives, and I can sort of layer those on top of that output and make the tweaks that I need to make, or the changes that I need to make, so that I know that it's actually good for my students and that it's meeting my needs. This article, Teaching with AI, this was put out by OpenAI, and there are some great suggested prompts for teachers to use in it. I would recommend this article. I love having AI point out the weaknesses in a student's argument, or having AI debate the student on a topic from a given perspective. So this is valuable, instantaneous feedback that we can never give our students as the teacher. There's just too many students for us to do that realistically within the classroom, but we can have AI do that work for us so that we can then sit down and really work on craft with our students and help them to take that feedback and see how to actually put it into practice. And so I think that that is just a super powerful way to incorporate the use of AI in our classrooms. Having AI provide assistance to our non-native speakers, helping them with their grammar, helping them with their syntax, their translation and their conversation skills. I think that is a very powerful thing we can be using AI for and should be using AI for in our classroom. And that improves opportunities and access to students who otherwise are often at disadvantage for greater educational opportunities. So I think that that's something that we can really kind of be excited about. And all students really benefit from that editor on the side. So research, again, just continually points to prompt feedback, timely feedback for students as being critical in the learning process. And so we can harness AI to provide that feedback to our students so that they can learn to improve their work and their outcomes. Other things that are rapidly coming, and what is already here and is rapidly arriving, are AI generated personal learning pathways. And I just think it's so exciting to think about the equity that is has the potential to provide for students. We'll continue to see those tools grow, but hopefully they'll become more affordable as well. I know in my school, we have a personalized learning pathways put out by iReady, which is a great product, but it's very, very expensive. I know Conmigo, if you're not familiar with Conmigo, Khan Academy is really trying to take advantage of the benefits of AI in tutoring and in one-to-one pathways, and they're sort of piloting that right now with that personalized tutoring. It runs on a GTP4, and I know it can be purchased for donations. So I'm not totally sure if it can then be purchased without donation, but some of that I know is being piloted as well, and isn't all totally accessible. I think the free version is on GTP 3.5. So the GTP4 is for donations. So but anyway, there are definitely some shortcomings still with some of these products, but the idea I think is just game changing when we think about, from an equity standpoint, who's had access to tutoring and who's had access to that really individualized pathway for learning, and I think that that's just super exciting for the potential that is there. We have the opportunity for AI as an assistant in the classroom or a collaborator to work with our students. Upload a rubric, upload the rubric into your AI, and then have the students upload their work into that to get feedback and compare it to that rubric and help kids to see what areas that they can improve. I think that helping, manage the time piece is just so essential, not only for us as teachers, but for kids, when they don't always have the best time management, I know, and being able to do the product that they're working on and throw it into AI and get that feedback really quickly, rather than having to get it into a teacher and wait for some feedback and things like that when they come up against deadlines. I know for my own child, that's a bit of an issue. So, but it's just an exciting opportunity to think about. Also having just questions, having it question them, and prompting the AI to question them about their work. I think, as I mentioned, Microsoft's education suite of products with Copilot is fantastic. I think that in this area, their coach products, so Reading Progress, Reading Coach, Speaker Coach, Presenter Coach, OneNote's Math Assistant Editor, these are all things that are at our students' fingertips, and they all incorporate the use of AI to help our students. And if you're not familiar with those products, Microsoft learn.microsoft.com is an amazing resource with free resources for you to learn more about those products. They're really well done, and so I would highly recommend those. And AI is coming alongside all of our products. So even if you aren't a Microsoft school, if you're a Google school, we're seeing that as well. And I think we're going to just sort of have this competition of who's got the next step. But those are positive things that we see. That's a positive competition for us to benefit from. I think also, just as we think about changes in our pedagogy, when we do have the fears of plagiarism and cheating, if the more we can incorporate discussion, the more we can incorporate collaboration into our classrooms, the better we are. Those are harder to cheat the system with. And we can come up with more activities that use AI to actually foster critical thinking and development. Students can look up facts, but how do they synthesize them? That's that synthesis, that those higher level activities are what we're really seeking. And those are just real life soft skills as well that are going to be necessary for our students, no matter what they're doing in the future, is learning to talk, learning to collaborate with others. And our society is becoming a more and more collaborative workplace. And so the more we can teach students to do that productively in the classroom the better. Project-based learning, I'm a huge project-based learning or problem-based learning fan, and really applying thinking and learning to current events. And instead of simply having students, regurgitate facts, the pedagogy needs to evolve to help students become problem solvers. And how can AI help our students with project or problem-based learning? Students may use AI to help generate images of prototypes in engineering design, or provide summaries of videos, directing them to those that are most useful to their project. They can use AI to vet a larger amount of material to determine which articles may be best for them, as they have them summarized and have them um, uh, uh, having videos transcripted for them to be able to see. Um, I think that we can have students, employing that diverse perspective as well, and really helping them and take into account as they problem solve. My students have been working on developing accessible devices as part of our engineering design unit, and um, being able to then take those and put that into an image generator rather than having them just create those products. So that's sort of where we're going with this, and having them be able to actually design what would this look like. It's pretty exciting, and it's really exciting for them to think about doing as well. And then there's just inquiry, as I was saying, just question, question, question. The more we can get kids to ask good questions, the better. And there's definitely an AI for that.
This is all so amazing, Heather. And as we near the end, because
Yes.
we're a little bit past the hour, but
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
question has come up. You have given us so many great resources. Do you have links to those articles to which you were referring?
Yeah, at that, I think I'm about 2 slides away from that. Yeah. So
Okay,
at
well,
the end
we're
here, I
actually at
do.
time. So if you could maybe wrap up in the last
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, I do have those links. I have to say my new favorite tool though, Magic School, is amazing. And I just found out today, it was just posted today, they are bringing out a student version of Magic Tool School in 2024. So that is just super exciting. And just so many tools here for teachers that every time I turn it on, there's something new. And that's just so exciting. Um, but one thing, I have them here at the end here so we can see these tools are just absolutely exploding. They're just constantly new things every day for teachers. And so just taking advantage of them, time that they will save you, and all of the different ways that we can get our students to think more deeply and more critically, and to have a broader perspective on things is just so accessible to us so easily. Whereas it used to take just so much for us to get to that point. So I'm excited, and I'm glad I got an opportunity to share a little bit today. Um, I'm, by all means, reach out on Twitter if there is something that you have that I haven't um, included that link for. Shoot me a message, and I will be happy to get those things for you as well.
Thank you. It's a big scary world out there with AI, and it ever changes. What ChatGPT, are we on 4 now? Right.
4.
And
Mhm.
it'll be 5 before the new year, I swear. And it just keeps changing and getting better and better. Although it's interesting because I teach 5th grade, and I share my screen with my class, and we try to get it. We tried to make me on Microsoft Designer Create.
Mhm.
It's hard. It is really interesting to look at the prompts and to edit everything down, and but anyway, everything was just so amazing. We are so thankful that you were here to share all of this knowledge with everyone here. And so thank you so much for giving your gift of time and talent to us today. We appreciate you very, very much. And to everyone who joined us, thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope you have a very wonderful and peaceful holiday, however you celebrate or don't celebrate. We hope at least you'll be celebrating having a winter break, teachers, because we
Find
need it.
something to celebrate.
Have something to celebrate. So from the NCCE family to all of you, happy holidays. We'll see you back here in January. Bye, everybody.
Hi, thank you.